Hey Joy Teachers! In this tutorial video, we're going to be talking about how to make Reading Explorer more fun and interactive using the class in Blackboard. Now, before we begin, I want to talk about how we can break up Reading Explorer and how you could break it down for each lesson that you teach. So each level is made up of 12 units, and each unit is broken up into 3 parts: A, B, and C, which is a video. In the courseware folder, each of these parts has their own separate PPT, with parts A and B being very similar. First you read a short article, then you do reading comprehension, reading skill, which also includes critical thinking, and then the vocabulary practice, with of course part C being very different, which is a video. Now, according to the teacher's guide, it's recommended that you finish 1 unit in 3 hours, which is perfect because the unit can be broken up in 3 parts. So if you're teaching a 1-hour lesson, that means you would take about 3 lessons to finish a unit. If you're teaching 30-minute lessons, then of course that would mean that you would take 6 lessons to cover up a unit. And of course, you can look over the teacher's guide for more adjustments and pacing. So with that in mind, let's dive right in. For this video, we're going to be using the unit Amazing Animals as an example. So of course, each unit starts with a warm-up activity. Now, instead of just using the boring PPT page or the courseware file, you could create a game where you give clues about your favorite animal and they have to guess, and then you take turns. For example, my favorite animal lives with a family in the forest and mountains, has 4 feet and a bushy tail. What is it? If they guessed a wolf, they are correct. Another game could get the student drawing their favorite animal. And now for this particular activity, I would set a timer to make it more fun and also control the amount of time you spend on an activity. I am a big fan of the timer for time management. It's a super helpful tool for that. Another way we can use the Blackboard is to create diagrams and fill them out with the student. For example, what are some things that animals can do that humans can't? Well, we could create a Venn diagram, for example, and you can even have them think about similar things in between. In this case, opossums and humans, and then discuss their differences. The good thing about writing down the students' answers on the Blackboard is that you can correct any mistakes. With Reading Explorer, there's always a before you read exercise. Now, this is where the screenshot tool really comes in handy. You can use it to take screenshots and then make the images bigger and much easier to write and draw on. Well, in this case, we have to label an image of a dolphin. So we can take a screenshot of the description page and then the image and place them close together on the Blackboard. So this is going to make it much easier for the student to label. Now here's a fun tip. Whenever you run into something numbered in the lesson, use the die tool. It just makes it more fun and interactive for the student. For example, let's say they roll a 1. Dolphins sleep by resting 1/2 of their brain at a time. What part of that is on the diagram? And then you can encourage them to use the drawing tool to draw the number or even type out the word. Another before you read activity is to get the student to read the title and the headings to preview what the reading is about. Now this is where the student textbook comes in handy. Why? Well, because unlike the PPT, which divides the paragraphs of the reading by page, the student's textbook shows everything together. So for this exercise, you could take a screenshot of the entire reading in the student's textbook. Then using the drawing tools, you can help the student understand what titles and headings are, and then they'll be able to answer A, B, or C. Now, when you run into pages that are just full of information or facts, you can create questions for it to make it more fun. Number them, and then, of course, use the die tool. For example, this page that it just contains information on dolphins. So you could roll the die. Let's say you get a number 6. How much do they weigh? Well, the student will look at the page and say, oh, up to 315 pounds. Very good. Awesome. You could even set the timer to make it more intense. You can see how many questions they can answer in 1 minute, for example. Okay, so now we're into the actual reading of the article. Again, we're still in part A. As you can see, there's many words that are in red, and this is our target language. which we will be reviewing more up ahead in vocabulary practice. So since these words are so important for the student to know, it would be really good if you could do an exercise to see if the student actually understands them. So let's see how we can use the Blackboard to make it more fun and interesting. One exercise you could do would be to take screenshots of the words and then the definitions, and then you could ask the student to match the words to the correct definitions using the drawing tool. Again, you could even set a timer and make it more interesting. So this is a great way to see what they know and what they don't know. For example, let's say that they match the word whistle incorrectly. You could be like, okay, well, let me show you what whistle is. And then you whistle. Okay, the student gets it. A whistle is a high-pitched sound, and then they can match it to the correct answer. Another game could be a crossword puzzle. There's many wonderful websites online, for example, education.com, where you can even create your own crossword puzzles. And to make it more fun, you could even get the student again to roll the die, have them read the description, and then fill in the crossword puzzle. So don't worry about spending too much time on these vocabulary exercises, because more up ahead, you are going to review them with the student. Now, during the actual reading part, you can take screenshots of the paragraphs. You can use the Blackboard to start up some more conversations too. Like, for example, for the word special, you could ask them if they have anything in their home that is special to them, and you can ask them to show you or describe what the object is. So after the reading of the paragraphs, you get into the reading comprehension part. Now, sometimes the students will get stuck and they won't be able to give the correct answer. So when that happens, use the Blackboard. Take screenshots of the corresponding paragraphs and maybe even get them to skim over the material to find the correct answer. So use the Blackboard to put things side by side to make it easier for the student when you see that they're struggling. So basically, the screenshot tool is a great ally throughout the lesson. For the reading skill part, which asks the student to skim the gist, for example, you could take the paragraph, you could highlight the word headings, the photos, and the captions, and then mark the spots using the drawing tool so the student knows where to look. So once they know, okay, that's a heading, that's a caption, then they can do the skimming for the gist part a lot easier. So when it comes to actually applying the skill they just learned, which is in this case, skimming for the gist of an article about the albatross, use the timer tool. Give them, 30 seconds to skim over it, 20 seconds to make it more fun and interesting. Really use your timer for various activities. Now, the critical thinking part is really, really important. You can use the Blackboard to even create your own tables or your own diagrams. Like this Venn diagram, for example, the questions ask the student what similarities there are between dolphins and humans. So you could use a Venn diagram to get them brainstorming some ideas. For the vocabulary practice part, you can again use the timer or even the die tool for when you see numbers, to make the activities more interesting. Now, these parts are pretty straightforward. It's more fill in the blanks kind of thing. Or if you see that they're really struggling with the word, then you can include some extra activities. Like, for example, another vocabulary game, which is called taboo. So the point is for them to pick a word from the reading that they know that they're really confident in, and they have to describe it to you, but without using the words that are located underneath. And that's it for part A. Now, the great thing is that part A and part B pretty much repeat themselves. It's the same thing. You read a short article, you have target words, you have reading comprehension, reading skill, critical thinking, and then the vocabulary practice. So you can apply everything you just saw in the video to part A and part B. So finally, you're in part C, which is the video. So this part doesn't include a warm-up activity, so you can create your own, which is related to the topic. For example, you could use the question, what do you know about a chameleon? You could take an image from the internet in order to discuss things like what color is the chameleon? Could you have one as a pet, for example? Now, one thing I want to talk about is how to use images from Google on the Blackboard to make it super, super easy. Go to Google Images, find the image you want, right-click, hit Copy Image, then head back to Classen, right-click on the Blackboard, paste, and there you go. And of course, you can use the shortcuts that you know to copy and paste as well. If you want to discuss a topic but you don't know how to do it, in particular you want to expand on a warm-up activity, you can even search up printable mind maps on Google Images. For example, this mind map is related to animals, and I can copy the ideas from it. I can have them talking about what kind of food the chameleon likes to eat, what kind of habitat it has. So really get them brainstorming what they think they know about the chameleon. So in this part of the video, you're gonna also have some target words to look out for. So before you watch the video, you could do exercises to practice the words. For example, you could take images related to the topic and then ask them to match the words to the corresponding images. And you can even create more activities like this one, for example. You can take a few images related to the words attract, shoots out, and warn, and then ask the student to create their own sentences for each image. If they have trouble, you could even create blank spaces within the sentences, like for example, the blank shoots out a blank. Finally, it's time to watch the video with the student, which I recommend pausing. You don't want to just watch the video in one go because it could be pretty boring for the student. So pause the video, maybe take screenshots from clips of the video and relate them to the questions. You can even have it all set up before you even watch the video on the Blackboard. Now, after you watch the video with your student, you reach the critical thinking part. Like for example, here it asks the student, if you were a scientist studying animals, what animal would you study? What would you like to find out about this animal? Well, you can create maybe 3 boxes, which would be which animal and why, what I already know, what I want to know. And then you can encourage the student to use the text tool if they know how to type, or you can even type out their own answers and again take advantage to correct their mistakes. So that's an activity you can do for the critical thinking part. So really use your imagination, use the Venn diagrams, use the die tool, and use the timer to make sure your time management is well. For the final part, which is basically a summary, a review of the vocabulary, you have little boxes there. So maybe even stick some numbers in there, take a screenshot of maybe 6 of those words, put in some numbers in there, use the die tool and get them to make a sentence with the word that they learned to really test and see if they remember the meaning of those vocabulary words. You can really use your imagination with the Blackboard. You can even create your own board games to do a vocabulary review, which each step has a vocabulary word, and after less than 1 minute, they have to complete the end of the board game, having made several sentences along the way. So these are just a few ideas on how to make Reading Explore more fun and engaging using the class in Blackboard. But if you have any more ideas, please feel free to share. Thank you so much for watching and happy teaching.